Hi everybody, Dr. Debunk back, and this is part two of managing your weight and understanding weight in America. I won't be redundant, but I've been fascinated by weight for 18 years and I've developed a killer weight loss program. I didn't mention it in the first one, but I'll do it now. The program that I do for my patients makes people lose 30 to 50 pounds in 3 to 4 months every time. Now it's aggressive, and there's two appetite suppressants I use, but there's a lot of things you can do on your own that I'm going to teach you. And so I had just left off. If you haven't seen part one, you got to look at it. I left off with explaining why you get fat. You get fat because you're eating too many carbs. And then how fat you get is a metabolic function. Where is your metabolism on this range of, at one range on the high end, you have a fast metabolizer, so you stay skinny like me even though you eat junk. And the low end people down here have what we call a slow metabolism. And I mentioned what that was. But the bottom line is, all you got to do is stop eating carbs and you'll get as skinny as you want. But we can't do that. And here's a way to summarize weight. And this is another tool, a Dr. Debunk thing, which is look, at 6 o'clock every night, most Americans, or whenever you get home from work, we have the willpower sucked out of us. There's no will left. And part of our mind is childlike. And that childlike brain, the subconscious mind, takes over at 6 o'clock, and the refrigerator calls and we answer. Basically, we're food whores. If you're a normal functioning American, and so I'll give you the normal test. I give this to all my patients. Here's the normal test. Are you doing booze, coke, drugs, psycho, 3 boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, and you're married? If you're doing that stuff, I can't help you. You're doomed. But if you're not doing that stuff, what are you addicted to? We're all addicted to food. That's the problem. And the carb foods are the most enjoyable. And so that's why we're overeat, because by 6 o'clock at night, there's nothing left. And most people overeat the bulk of foods, carbs in excess, in the evening. And so there's tools to help that. Managing that is a critical thing. But really, that's the most dominant factor for why. I mean, everybody kind of understands today the keto diet, and I explained that in the first video. And so the question becomes, practically speaking, how do you do this? And that's what we're going to go over. That's what we're going to do. So let me give you a little bit of intro to understanding foods, because you have to have a basic understanding. All foods are either a carb, a fat, or a protein. So protein foods are mostly meat, but you can mix together certain vegetables like nuts and legumes, beans. Nuts and beans mixed right could give you complete protein, but these foods have carbs in them. But dairy products, certain veggies, and meat, that's protein. Fat is in everything. It's either animal fat or vegetable fat, and at different amounts. But then you have carbs, which is the biggest food group. So carbs are pasta, bread, cereals, all grains, all fruits, all vegetables. But carbs are either sugars, starches, or fiber. Now there's really no difference between starches and sugars. Food labels want to try to tell you that, which is another thing we'll get to. But fiber is a safe carb. Now fibers are carbs, but we're not cows. We can't break it down. So that becomes important when you're trying to lose weight. And so basically, as I mentioned, carb foods are energy foods. As I said, we turn all carbs into energy, glucose. It doesn't matter where they come from. It's the total calorie load. Fiber is just passes through. And then fat and protein are rebuilding. So it's really kind of simple. Fat and protein foods are what we use to rebuild our body, and carbs provide the energy. So if your body was a house, we're always rebuilding the house. Well, the materials are fat and protein, and the carpenters would be carbs. And we're eating 2 to 3 times the amount of carbs we need every day, and that's why we're so fat. And so the degree of fatness is what's variable. So to summarize this, your fatness level is based on how many carbs you overeat, your basal metabolic rate, hormones, especially thyroid hormone, and we're going to talk about that, and then your genetics. Those are the things that determine. And we're learning that your genetic blueprint is not fixed. We've always thought that that was the blueprint, you couldn't do anything about it. That is not true. Exercise plays a huge role in altering your genetics, but it's a 10-year proposition. And we'll get to that stuff. And so, basically, the issue with weight becomes a practical one. We are surrounded by food in America. I mean, you can't even go to the gas station without the pump yelling at you to go get a 64 ouncer of some soda. I mean, I cringe. I fill up my car with gas and I see this 8-year-old kid walk out with a drink that's half his size, and he's already 120 pounds. That kid is doomed. And I guess the parents just don't get it. But anyway, practicality is what it's about. And so the first step in weight has always been what's been lacking is a practical approach. And so what does that mean? Well, as I mentioned briefly, there's 2 movies here. If you're talking about weight control, which is what this is about, you're talking about what's the movie to lose weight, and the other one is what's the movie to maintain weight. See, doctors have studied this, even though we don't care, because we really don't care about how fat you are, because we don't study it. It's not a disease. And it's not a mean thing. It's just that, you can go talk to your neighbor who's a carpenter about your car woes and why it doesn't work. He doesn't really care because he can't help you. He's not a mechanic. And doctors can't help you, so they don't really care. So it's just go away, don't bug me. But it's become an epidemic thing, and the connection between weight and disease is growing. Anyway, and so we've done, and about years ago I dug up 4 studies that have been done over about 30 years, 40 years, on rapid weight loss. People that, or just successful weight loss. And what it showed is it doesn't do any good, especially rapid weight loss. That 2 years later, all the people that lost a lot of weight quickly gained it all back. And so that led to a factoid, a lie, and that is that rapid weight loss is bad. No, it's not. Rapid weight loss is the way to do it, practically. But people misinterpret the studies. The studies showed that people lost the weight, but they couldn't keep it off. So maintaining weight has been the problem for 60 years. Since 1980, we know what to do. It's what I've told you. You cut your carbs, you lose body fat. See, when you cut your carbs, you don't have enough energy to stay alive. If you can cut your carbs low enough, and you need 200 extra calories of carbohydrates just to stay alive today, you burn fat. The body burns carbs first, and then fat, and then protein. Now, it's not 100%, but, so all you're going to do is create a carb deficit every day, and you're going to burn body fat. But again, like I said, that's the hard part. And so what's happened in America is people have gotten mad enough and lost weight, but then they don't have a plan to keep it off, so they gain it all back. And that's the first step I realized, and that's what you have to see. This is a Dr. Debunk truth. You have to do one thing, which is aggressive, to lose weight, but then you have to do something much more practical to maintain weight. And so once you're done dieting, you have to have a plan for the rest of your life that'll be healthy, natural, and practical to maintain your weight. And that's what we'll get into in the upcoming videos. But the big picture is, it's one movie to lose weight and another movie to maintain weight. And so you've got to do both. And so if you diet and you're mad enough to lose 30 pounds on your own, if you don't have a plan, guess what? Over the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to gain it all back because you're going to go back and living in America and eat the same junk and do the same thing. I mean, if you don't like the movie you're watching, stop going to the theater that plays the same war movie. Ladies, if you want a romance movie, a Hallmark movie, why are you going into the movie that plays a theater that plays war movies? It's going to be the same war movie every time. You got to go to a different movie theater. And that's what we're starting. So this is part 2 of Dr. Debunk's approach to weight. Thanks for watching.